You felt it 3 weeks ago during that conversation, the one where your mind drifted to the window while someone spoke about things that once mattered. Your body was present, but some essential part of you had already left the room. Last month you moved through your entire routine like someone operating machinery they no longer recognize, hands performing tasks while your consciousness floated somewhere else entirely. The mirror shows you a face you know by memory, but can no longer claim as familiar. You arrived at this video because your nervous system picked up a frequency it's been scanning for without your conscious knowledge. Something underneath the surface of your daily existence has been reorganizing itself. You stand at the edge of a territory you can't map yet, feeling equal parts terror and the kind of aliveness you thought you'd lost years ago. That restless energy coursing through you at random hours, those moments when you surveyed your entire life and felt the wrongness of it pressing against your chest. Those instances when you sensed capabilities inside you that had no name or outlet. Your system has been building toward this inflection point longer than you realize. Most people recycle their patterns until death, having identical conversations across decades, constructing elaborate philosophies to justify why their life must remain exactly this shape. They develop mastery in managing limitations rather than dissolving them. The walls you built for protection now function as your cell. The identity you wore for safety has become a weight crushing your spine. The stories you repeat about your capabilities and boundaries sound hollow when you speak them aloud, your own voice betraying the lie. Right before a phase shift, everything familiar registers as foreign. Comfort sources begin suffocating you. Desires you chased for years lose their magnetism because you're tuning into a completely different frequency. Nobody warns you about the loneliness that arrives with this recalibration. You're seeing through surfaces that everyone around you still accepts as solid. You're detecting patterns in conversations that others miss entirely. You've developed a sensitivity to authenticity that makes casual interaction feel like sandpaper on exposed nerve endings. Relationships built on mutual complaint rather than mutual expansion now drain you after 10 minutes. Activities you used to deploy for distraction now feel like violence against something precious inside you. Goals you've been pursuing reveal themselves as borrowed ambitions you picked up somewhere and forgot to examine. This in-between space where you're no longer the old version, but haven't yet solidified into the new one, is calibrated to feel destabilizing. Discomfort serves as the mechanism that forces evolution. Your tolerance for inauthenticity has dropped to zero because you're preparing to operate from a completely different core frequency. Most people feel this discomfort and panic. They diagnose themselves as broken, retreat to familiar patterns, convince themselves the restlessness was temporary insanity. They recite gratitude mantras to guilt themselves back into complacency, label their hunger for more as selfishness. They misunderstand the signal entirely. This discomfort is your guidance system announcing that you've outgrown your current operating system. Life itself is pushing you toward the next evolutionary threshold. Every major transition you've experienced followed this exact architecture. Right before the shift, the old structure stopped working, but the new one hadn't materialized yet. You floated between worlds, belonging nowhere. This time the transition runs deeper than external circumstances. This is a fundamental reorganization of how you perceive yourself and your relationship to reality. A version of yourself that's been waiting backstage is ready to walk into the lights the moment you stop blocking the entrance. The signs accumulate around you. Synchronicities too precise to dismiss as coincidence. Conversations that address your exact unspoken questions. Resources appearing exactly when you need them. People entering your orbit who speak a language you didn't know you were learning. Your intuition has been strengthening, hasn't it? Those gut feelings you used to override are becoming impossible to ignore. That inner voice that used to whisper now speaks with unmistakable authority. You're learning to trust yourself in ways you never have, not because you possess all answers, but because you're finally willing to pursue them. Underneath these surface shifts, you're remembering something you forgot long ago. You're reconnecting with a part of yourself that got buried under decades of external expectations, cultural programming, and your own fear of what would happen if you actually showed up as your true self. This remembering bypasses your analytical mind entirely. It's happening through your body, through your energetic field, through parts of you that communicate in sensations and knowings rather than language. Certain environments affect you differently now. Spaces that used to energize you feel heavy or stagnant. Places you never noticed before suddenly feel like sanctuary. Your relationship with time is transforming. You refuse to spend hours on activities that don't nourish something essential, even when you can't articulate what that essential something is. You've become fiercely protective of your energy, not from selfishness, but from finally understanding that your energy is sacred and finite. Sleep patterns are shifting. Dreams arrive more vivid or bizarre than before. You wake at strange hours feeling like you've returned from somewhere significant but can't retrieve the memory. Your consciousness is expanding according to its own rhythm, following laws that don't conform to conventional logic. You're drawn toward things that never interested you before, spending hours in nature, learning subjects completely unrelated to your career, feeling pulled toward creative expression even though you've never considered yourself artistic. These aren't random curiosities. They're breadcrumbs leading you toward aspects of yourself ready for integration. People in your life are noticing changes in you even when they can't name what's different. Some say you seem distant. Others say you seem calmer or more grounded. A few express concern that you're changing too rapidly. You're not changing. You're becoming. Change implies altering what already exists. Becoming means allowing what has always existed inside you to finally emerge. You're removing layers that have been concealing your authentic nature rather than adding new components. This explains why the process feels simultaneously terrifying and completely natural. Part of you is scared because you can't see the destination, you lack a map, and everyone around you is traveling in entirely different directions. But another part recognizes this journey as the most honest thing you've ever undertaken. Your old coping mechanisms are failing. The strategies you used to numb out or distract yourself from difficult emotions have lost their effectiveness. Your system is rejecting anything that pulls you away from this becoming process. Your inner wisdom has decided it's time to feel everything, to be present for everything, to stop hiding from the fullness of your own experience. Money, success, relationships, all the external markers you've used to measure your worth are losing their grip on you. Your definition of what makes a life good is fundamentally reorganizing itself. You're beginning to value things that can't be photographed or measured by anyone else's standards. Peace has become more important than excitement. Authenticity has become more valuable than approval. Truth has become more attractive than comfort. The next phase you're moving toward has nothing to do with achieving external milestones. Those things might arrive and they might be wonderful, but they're beside the point. The point is coming home to yourself so completely that external circumstances become secondary to your internal state of being. You're preparing to live from the inside out instead of the outside in. Instead of looking to your environment to dictate how you should feel, you're developing the capacity to bring your own energy to whatever environment you encounter. Instead of depending on others to validate your worth, you're cultivating an unshakable knowing of your own value that requires no external confirmation. Everything feels uncertain right now because you're learning to trust something that can't be proven, to follow guidance that offers no guarantees, to believe in possibilities that have no precedent in your personal history. You're being asked to have faith in yourself and in a process larger than your individual will. The next phase will not arrive through force or strategy. It emerges as you continue releasing what no longer serves you and remain open to what wants to come through. It's already in motion. You found this video right before it fully arrives because you needed confirmation that what you're experiencing carries meaning. You stand at the threshold feeling everything described here because the deepest part of yourself is finally ready to stop hiding and start living. The restlessness isn't a problem to solve. The discomfort isn't evidence of wrong action. The uncertainty isn't a sign you should retreat. Everything you're feeling confirms you're exactly where you need to be. You've outgrown who you were, and you're about to step into who you're becoming. The shift is already happening. You don't need to force it or accelerate it or figure it out. You just need to trust it. Your next phase has been waiting patiently while you gathered the courage to abandon everything that kept you small. Now that you're ready, there's only one movement left. Stop looking backward and start walking forward. The person you're becoming has waited long enough. Your body already knows what your mind is still trying to calculate. That tightness in your chest when you wake up, that's not anxiety. That's expansion pressing against old boundaries. The fatigue you feel after social obligations that used to energize you, that's not depression. That's your system conserving energy for the metamorphosis underway. Every cell in your body is being rewritten with new instructions, new capacities, new ways of interfacing with reality itself. You might notice your hands doing things slightly differently now, reaching for objects with unfamiliar grace, or pausing mid-gesture as if remembering something your conscious mind hasn't caught up to yet. The people who love you will react in unpredictable ways. Some will celebrate your emergence while secretly mourning the version of you they thought they knew. Others will actively resist your transformation because it threatens the unspoken agreements you had about who gets to be powerful and who stays safe by staying small. A few will match your frequency and rise alongside you, and those relationships will become deeper than you imagined possible. You're going to lose people in this process. You're also going to find your true family, the ones who recognize you at the frequency you're becoming rather than the frequency you're leaving behind. What you're experiencing now is the death that precedes every real birth. Something in you has to die for something else to live. The version of you that needed everyone's approval, that avoided conflict at all costs, that performed competence while secretly drowning in doubt, that version is dissolving. You might grieve that old self even as you know you can never return to it. Let yourself feel that grief. It's sacred. It means you honored that version of yourself long enough to learn what it came to teach you. Now you're being asked to honor yourself enough to let it go. The new frequency you're embodying will attract circumstances that the old you could never have accessed. Opportunities will appear that seem too aligned to be coincidence. People will say yes to you without you having to convince or perform or shrink yourself to fit their expectations. Doors will open that you didn't even know existed because you'll finally be vibrating at the frequency required to perceive them. This isn't magical thinking. This is physics. You're changing the signal you're broadcasting, and reality is responding to the new transmission. You're going to be tempted to explain yourself to people who can't hear you yet. You're going to want to justify your choices to people who are still operating from the paradigm you're leaving. Resist that temptation. Your transformation is not a debate. It's a declaration. The people who are meant to understand will feel it without explanation. The people who aren't ready will argue with you no matter how articulate you become. Save your energy for the becoming, not for defending it. This phase you're entering requires a kind of faith you've never practiced before. Faith that the ground will appear beneath your feet as you step into empty air. Faith that your needs will be met in ways you can't currently imagine. Faith that you're being guided by an intelligence that sees further than your limited perspective. You've spent years trying to figure everything out, to plan for every contingency, to never be caught unprepared. That strategy served you in the old phase. It will sabotage you in this new one. The next level requires surrender, not control. It requires listening, not forcing. It requires trust, not certainty. Your next phase begins the moment you stop waiting for permission to claim it. The moment you stop looking for evidence that you're ready and simply decide that you are. The moment you stop rehearsing your transformation and start embodying it. Everything you've experienced up until now has been preparation. Every disappointment, every betrayal, every moment you thought would break you, all of it was building the capacity you need for what comes next. You're not starting from scratch. You're starting from everything you've survived and integrated and alchemized into wisdom. The person you're becoming already exists. They're waiting for you to stop hesitating and walk through the door that's been open this entire time.